Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I'm Keith Chow.
I'm Dominic.
And I'm Jamal Michelle.
We've got a lot to cover this week. It's the finale of the Captain America show. Oops, I mean Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's been a hell of a week for Asian American martial artists because it kicked off with Shang-Chi's trailer.
No pun intended.
The number one movie in the country is Mortal Kombat. And of course, we have to talk about the historic Oscars ceremony. So we're going to actually throw to our conversation about the Oscars and talk about that. And then we're going to talk about everything else that happens in Nerd Pop. So, the Oscars. That was wild. What do you think?
I thought it was going to be run of the mill. And I casted so many aspersions on it beforehand. I was like, remember when we were talking about it now? We're like, all right, it'll be, typical. Chadwick will do his thing. We'll talk about the speech that was given in his honor. What the fuck? It's like every year, not only are you super out of touch, it sucks too because they're out of touch for so many reasons, the Oscars, and just award shows and seasons in general. But the reason why mostly, right-wing or conservative media go after them is not for the same reasons we do.
Right.
So you're getting both sides. Imagine you piss off both sides. So the political aspects, people are upset. Sure, like, representation, yada, yada, yada. You don't like black and brown people getting awards. Shut the fuck up. But that's besides the point. I just feel like it's so frustrating that your optics never match up. I'm just like, you were giving out old boys NFTs, like a whole ass.
Yeah, that was wild. Like, so for people who don't know, They did an NFT, a non-fungible token, which in and of itself is a wild concept. I still can't wrap my brain around like how that's even a thing. People are spending millions of dollars for like a GIF, but whatever. But they put a gold-plated GIF of Chadwick in the swag bags. Britney, you were talking about this earlier, how they like rearranged the show on the assumption that Chadwick would win the Oscar.
And that's the thing, they were really pushing it like Chadwick is gonna win, and it's like, well, did they check ahead of time than they usually do? Because why were you so confident that he was gonna win? So they decided to do instead of doing the actor categories and then best picture, they did best picture, best actress, best actor, in the hopes that it would basically end on celebrating Chadwick. And so since they did not pre-open this envelope, they open it and it's not Chadwick, it's Anthony. And that's just wild. Like, I know they've been trying to update their members and trying to if this person hasn't voted in like so many years, their membership is revoked, blah blah blah. But it's still obviously not enough, just because it's like, that's wild. And it's not to say that Anthony isn't a good actor, because we all know he's great, but it's just wild that it's more on the Academy for marketing it like, no, yeah, Chadwick got it in the bag, like it's his, so we're gonna celebrate him, and then no.
I mean, I almost feel like had they not switched it up, it would have been less. I mean, it would have still been kind of disappointing, but I think it wouldn't have felt as fucked up as it was, right? Because like as soon as Rita Moreno shows up and is like, and I saw the banner that said Best Picture, I was like, holy shit, they're doing Best Picture now? I think all of Twitter was like, what is happening? And I was like, well, clearly they think Chadwick's going to win, so they're going to end it on Best Actor, have his widow come out, give this like really emotional speech, close the show on a bang. Yeah. And for like, because not only did like Anthony Hopkins win, but like he wasn't even there. So it was just like, oh, that's it. Bye. Show's over. And in and of itself, it was like, and there was the joke going around. I think a lot of people were saying that like this is the most historic Best Actor category in a long time, because you had Stephen Yeun, you had Riz Ahmed, you had Chadwick Boseman. And, I think the joke was people thought they would just give it to Gary Oldman because, like, the one white dude, right? Like, who probably didn't deserve it. As much as I love him as Commissioner Gordon, that dude, he's a white guy, right? Like, in this historic, you have Asian people, you have black people in the category. And, of course, they give it to the white guy. And that's actually what happened. Like, they didn't give it to Stephen Yeun. Because if they had given it to at least Stephen Yeun or Riz Ahmed, at least it would have been historic. But, wow, just to go to like, Anthony Hopkins, to Brittany's point, who is a generational actor who has an Oscar already, And I haven't seen The Father. Most people haven't seen The Father. I'm sure it's a good movie. I'm sure his performance is devastating, but I don't know. It's just it's a hell of a way to end the show. That's all I gotta say.
Their politics and optics will never line up. I said that before. It's just weird, self-righteous, and really, gratuitous. It's this very exclusive club that's very proud to congratulate itself in all the ways that it's already been called out for so long. And so at this point, we're just making good stuff. And by we're, I mean like people of color are just making good stuff. It's not like, here, throw us a bone. It's literally people are making good things, recognize the work that's better than the work. I mean, and there was that fallout with the Hollywood Foreign Press, or who the hell was it, from the Golden Globes?
With the Golden Globes. Yep.
Yeah, with that email and I mean, we know what y'all think about us. Fuck y'all. I've stopped. I didn't watch the Oscars. I wasn't going to. I've stopped watching since the debacle with Moonlight, and I was Skyping with my wife that night it happened, and I was legit going to like flip my computer out of my window. I was like, how do they give it to this dry ass, like run of the mill milk toast ass movie, La La Land? It's literally the premise of every popular Oscar worthy film, and you don't give it to something as revolutionary as Moonlight. And then to be awarded to be given the award in that way, where it was a mistake and then like mistakenly given to someone else, but actually it's you. So it's like a underhanded way of celebrating that. And people were drawing connections
almost
to that
robs
moment.
them of the moment.
Exactly. And a lot of people were drawing it to that, were connecting it to that moment with Boseman. And it's like, how removed could you be from what's happening? No one is saying give Chadwick Boseman an award only because he passed, only because of what he was fighting through before he passed, or only because of the fact that he's a prominent African-American actor. It's literally because this individual gave his life and soul to his work, as both of those continue to diminish. And they were masterclass performances. So what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, Anthony Hopkins, really? We get it. Yeah, we get it. He's a banger. He's always been dope. Cool. But like, it's not his time. It's not Gary Oldman's time. To put all three of our peoples in that one category is all the things. It's like, it'd be great if everybody could get the reward because they did so damn well. But man, holy shit, they're just never.
I mean, I think
right.
that's actually a great point that I hadn't even considered with the idea of the posthumous Oscar, because I think, like when Heath Ledger won, he wasn't dying when he was making Dark Knight, but like Chadwick was literally losing his life, giving the performance of his life, literally, in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and in The Five Bloods. Like, he could have been double nominated for all I care.
And I would just say the disrespect that The Five Bloods got in general, just because
Delroy Lindo was robbed.
He was so good. It's just wild. And even to Nicole Bahari was really great, and the Miss Juneteenth, it was just, it's really crazy to see like certain people who didn't get nominations at all, or were just like completely ignored or shut out, and it's frustrating. And then, not just like we've all been saying, not to say that Anthony Hopkins wasn't great, but I don't know. And then even with Heath Ledger's win, I think people forget that he was actually up against Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Tropic Thunder. Like, I'm sorry, like, if you go back and look at that year, you'll see why Heath Ledger won. And this isn't to despair, like, Heath Ledger. Like, we know Heath Ledger gave it for that performance, but, like, I just wonder how much the Academy, that was just them being like, oh, well, he's actually really the only, like, decent performance we got. Everyone else is kind of a joke, like, actually a joke. And he played the Joker, and he wasn't a joke. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what it was. Like, and Heath was great, and I would say, yeah, but with Chadwick, it's really sad because, yeah, he was losing his life as he was giving us really great, like, performances. And
it was crazy. I mean, the only really honor he got, because I think the NFT thing is also honestly disrespectful, but
yeah, I think so too.
He got the applause, send off in the like super lightning round version of the in memoriam.
Oh, that was why. Why was it going by like that? It was giving me anxiety. I'm like, oh, why is it moving so fast?
I mean, to be honest, like I didn't even notice it was going that fast until like I went back and Twitter was mentioning it. My whole time I was looking through it I was just like, are they going to have DMX? Are they going to have DMX? Are they? Oh, they have DMX. And once I saw DMX, I was like, all right, cool, because I was worried that they would have forgotten that he was an actor. He was a film actor. He wasn't just an actor. We talked about this when he passed. He co-headed, Cradle to the Grave, and he was in Romeo Must Die. Like he actually took his acting seriously, and I was just glad that they included him. But yeah, it was great. Well, let's talk about a couple things. I don't want to dwell too much on the Oscars, but I did want to talk about one the way they produced it. I know, Jamal, you said you didn't really watch. Brittany, you were a long time Oscar ceremony watcher. What did you think of like the kind of one? It was like live, but it was also on film, which was weird, but cool. I thought that was cool. It looked cool, like it was 24 frames, kind of high definition film. But also, they cut. There was no music. There was no songs. There was no jokes. There was no clips. Like to me, that was weird because a lot of these movies people haven't seen, and you're given awards for people's like makeup and visual effects and sound, and you don't actually show any of it. What did you think of that?
That I thought was like the part that I didn't like. I wish that they showed more clips of in the nominations, and I don't like that they did the songs in the pre-show, and I guess it's because like they're trying to be as safe as possible, and they figured people singing and people sometimes spit when they sing. So I think that's what it was like, just in case they messed up on the testing and someone actually has COVID and they perform and they sing and spit and I think that's what it was. But it sucks because I really would have loved to have like Leslie and her performing in the middle of all this stuff, like, or even just listening to bits of the score like they usually play throughout, like so it wasn't the same, but I understood. I feel like they did the best with what they could, but yeah, it did suck, like, just that they put too much faith into one thing, and it like was their premise of how they decided to run the show.
I mean, my only thing about that is, I mean, I understood why you couldn't have like big dance numbers or like singing or anything like that, but again, to not even like demonstrate when you're doing the visual effects category, why these movies are nominated. It's just like, and then they talk about this guy's childhood. You're like, all right, whatever. What does that got to do with like Tenet? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Tenet, so I'm glad it got visual effects. But yeah, no, I wish they would have like actually showed why it got visual effects.
Right. Or like, the sound and Sound of Metal. Like, I'm glad it won, and I was happy Riz Ahmed, presented the award. But again, it's like, it was a lot of tell, don't show, which is the opposite of what movies are supposed to be. Movies are supposed to be show, don't tell. But then the other thing I wanted to get to is the historic wins that we did see. Chloe Zhao won Best Director. Yu Jung-yoon Best Supporting Actress. Daniel Kaluuya won Best Supporting Actress, and also is probably going to get a whooping from his mom because he talked about his parents having sex.
I could not believe, and his mom's was just like, like she said, like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh no, he's in trouble.
Glenn Close didn't win, but she did the butt, and shout out to Go-Go Music. So all of us in the DMV was very happy to see EU get some shine on the Oscars telecast. Any other standouts for you guys before we wrap up?
I'm glad Tenet got that award. I was personally hyped. That's my shit. Nolan is my dude. Even though he could do too much, like the Oscars. People had issue with Kaluuya being nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but I think it's just because of the way the film was navigated, which is a conversation that can go in any direction. Was it about Hampton or was it about Stanfield's character? Right, so. Is this about the infiltrator or about the civil rights activist? And I think it's about him, right? But about the infiltrator, how the infiltrator blows that shit up and brings his life to an end. I don't know.
I think the issue too is that they were both in the same category and they both gave really, really amazing performances. So, and of course, I feel like part of it was, maybe the people who voted for, not everyone, but some of the people who voted for Daniel, it was probably like we got to make it seem like we do care about, like, these issues and these type of performances, because both of the supporting categories have anytime there's people of color in it, they usually win the supporting categories.
Right, it's the lead actor that's always that's the glass ceiling. Like, it's hard to get a win in the lead categories, and that's why they shined a light on it last night, right? Because they gave it to Yoo Jin-young, they gave it to Daniel Kaluuya, but Viola and Chadwick were the favorites. So having them,
not to even talk bad about Viola, she was okay in Ma Rainey. I really think Andrea Day and Billie Holiday versus The State had the best leading actress performance, in my opinion.
Right.
And for her to win over, and not that Frances McDormand wasn't terrible in Nomadland. Like, that movie's a beautiful movie, but I don't think she gave that type of performance where I was like, oh yeah, like,
yeah, I don't know that she does. You're right. Like, to be a 3-time Oscar winner is like, I don't know. That's role? Not for that one. Not for that one.
It's just because you won before. Like, that's what leads you into that next one that makes you go. It's like, I think it's more status than performance with, like, the Anthony Hopkins and McDormand. It's like, okay,
and I think the Kaluuya Stanfield thing was also, like, political, not in like politics, but like the way studios and the Academy kind of negotiate, right? Because, like, they knew that the best lead was stacked, and if you enter Kaluuya or Stanfield in Best Actor, they may not even get nominated because of all of the other ones because there's all this negotiating. Like, okay, we'll put this actor in for supporting even though he's really a lead, or we'll put him in for lead even though he's really supporting because there's a better chance, blah blah blah, depending on the year. And that's kind of why a lot of, like, the Judas and the Black Messiah stuff happened. But to your point, when you put both leads in the supporting, it just begs the question, then who's the movie about? Like, because if anything, they should both have been in the lead category, if that's the question. Like, who's the antagonist, who's the protagonist? But to have them both be supporting, are they implying that, like, Jesse Plemons was the star of the movie? Was he the lead actor? Like, you know,
no one's going to try and navigate that space, because it's a conversation that, like, no one wants to have because they don't know how to have, and it'll really shine a light on just so many of the institutional problems that exist within Hollywood. That every year it's something. Every award,
it's always something, right? Something. It's whether it's Oscar So White or it's Green Book or it's La La Land, it's always something. So that's one. You know, this was kind of like a chalk ceremony up until that last 30 minutes where everything just went off the rails. At least it'll be historic in that sense. But we're gonna leave the Oscar talk there. Thank you, Jamal and Britney, for getting up early so that we can add this to the podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
Of course. And one more thing, we know Marvel is working on adding the because that Eternals was finished over a year and a half ago. They are adding Academy Award winning director to that trailer. I know it. I tweeted it last night. I know they're doing it. So that movie is about to blow up, like, the whole entire, like, way people see superhero movies. I think that, in my opinion, but we'll see.
I mean, I think that's exactly right. And I think everyone was hoping they would drop an Eternals trailer.
That's what I was waiting for. I was like, where's the trailer?
Like, right after. Right after Chloe Zhao brings home the Oscars, like, and here's the trailer for Eternals.
I thought they were gonna do it, and they didn't. And I was like, damn it! The one time Disney, you own ABC, you have the Oscars,
you know airing on
and they didn't do it. I was like, wow.
Because, like, to your point, that movie was supposed to come out last year, so it's sitting in a can somewhere.
Yeah, it's wild.
So we're gonna throw it back to the rest of the conversation that we had about Falcon Winter Soldier, about Mortal Kombat, about Shang-Chi. And check that out after the break. Now that the Oscar talk is out of the way, let's get to the real shit. And that's the Marvel shit. 'Cause we gotta talk about Marvel, because that's what we do on Hard Knock Life. Falcon and Winter Soldier, finale. What did everybody think?
I liked it. I'm not gonna lie, like, I got a little bit emotional.
Yep.
Yeah, I really liked it. There was a moment that I think a lot of people can agree that, like, I got very emotional. Me and my little brother were watching it together, and I was like, it's it. That's it. Like, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think I'd react this way. Like, I really didn't, just because of how I felt with the show for most of it. Just, it always felt very, like we talked about, it was just only touching the surface of things, which, you know, it's going to just do that because it's Marvel and Disney. But yeah, I got very emotional. I was surprised how emotional I got watching it. So yeah.
Well, so let's put a spoiler warning out there now, so that anyone who hasn't finished Falcon Winter Soldier, stop listening and come back after you've finished it. I trust that everyone on here is. If you're listening to the Hard Knock Life podcast, you probably waited till 3 a.m. on the East Coast to watch Falcon Winter Soldier Part 6. So, now that that's out of the way, Brittany, I think I know which scene you're talking about, but tell the world, which scene got you emotional?
It's the first shot that we get of Sam in the Captain America suit. I got really, really emotional seeing that. It was nice, you know? And then I think because I also just remembered when we first saw the, like, illustrations of, you know, when he was going to be Captain America in the comics, which was, what was that, like, after Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
I think it was after the actual movie Winter Soldier. So, like, just to see that happen and just think of, like, everything, I don't know, just everything that's happened in the MCU since then, and, like, you know, having how Black Panther, how unapologetically black that was, and, you know, just see Sam in the suit, it really meant a lot, and I was surprised how much it hit me like that, and I got very emotional and teared up, and I was like, this is the suit, I'm gonna cry right now.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't think I was gonna have that reaction just because, like, of just how I felt about the politics of the show for the most part. I didn't think I would have that reaction to it, but I did. So they did their job.
Good job, Marvel.
Yeah, well, just a nitpick thing right off the bat. This episode was really dark. And I don't mean thematically, I just mean like literally, the screen was so damn dark for so much for the episode. I'm just like, what's
these big climactic fights at night?
What's happening? It was so dark. I wanted to really just take in everything that was happening. But to Brittany's point, that was also a very emotional inflection point. I was a little underwhelmed at the entrance because I thought it was going to be like, someone had made a comment that the Russo brothers in all of their movies, there's a literally huge scene that takes, it's the set piece. If it's not Ant-Man turning into a giant in Civil War, then it's just huge shit literally happened. The Hulk, his transformation, the first time it happens. In the MCU, we have these huge moments, but I thought it was going to be bigger, his reveal. I don't know. It happened so fast. I'm like, oh shit, he's there. Oh my god, he's in the suit.
It does happen in like the first 2 minutes of the episode, right? It's like
so fast. So I was still relaxing, and then I was like, whoa. You know, there's no build up, or like when Thor crash lands with Stormbreaker. That's that build up. So I think the build up came from the last episode. I also don't know why I thought he was going to have some super Wakandan shit to wear. I'm so stupid. I was so hyped. I was like, yo, he's going to have some
I did read a little bit on Twitter about people were mad that like the Wakandans gave him like a red, white, and blue suit because it's like, you know.
For real. Like,
colonizers, like, you know.
It was going to be all black. But I mean, whatever, you know, for what it's worth. And just from a technical standpoint, it was so funny. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I'm curious how he's able to move around and maneuver. He's got the neck, like the mask and the neck connect. And it reminded me of, you know, Christian Bale when he redoes the Batman suit and he can move his neck now. But then there's also that little collar. And I'm just like, how is it from a technical standpoint? Are you comfortable? Can you move? If you stretch too far, is it limiting?
And then considering like the original Falcon suit the comic book Falcon suit definitely has that collar look, but the MCU Falcon has always just been goggles. So now he's got a whole... But shout out to Marvel for giving us, in the finales of both of their Disney Plus series, like the big thing is character gets their comic accurate costume, right? Because like Sam gets his comic accurate Captain American costume, Wanda got her comics accurate Scarlet Witch costume at their finale. Like, I wonder what costume Loki's going to get at the end of the Loki series.
I mean, whoever's in charge of the costumes, y'all are killing it. And I know there are several people who do, you know, who have their hands on different things, but it looked stellar. Very, of course, super emotional, you know, when he steps into the role and all the cameras are on him and he's got that really beautiful speech. I thought it was, you know, the most diplomatic approach to him becoming Captain America. And I love that, you know, the ending shot of the retitling of the series, you know, that you pointed out the other day, Keith. I'm like, holy shit, yeah, that's true. And when he says those 3 words, I tweeted about that. I'm like, holy shit, that's so big. You know, I'm Captain America. Yeah, you are. There's no question about that. And the history of that shield and the history of the place that you're trying to protect is complicated, and it's nuanced, and it's still yours to be part of. You know, what he tells Isaiah at the end too is still so beautiful, and so it just every bit of that resonated with me, and I really dug it. It would have been cool to see it in the theater. It would have been super dope to see in the theater. That's all I was missing.
You're going
to
get a chance, because right after the finale aired, Marvel released a press statement saying, "Oh, and by the way, Malcolm Spellman's writing Captain America 4."
Yeah.
Which is...
You're so right. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I kind of wish that he and Ryan Coogler would write it together, because I feel like it would have a more, like... I don't, that's why it's hard to gauge how much of like certain things with the show was just because of like Marvel really having their hand in this one more than I feel like with Black Panther, I really felt like Ryan Coogler got to have his freedom in storytelling, versus I don't know about Malcolm because I've never seen anything else from him. So it's hard to gauge like what he was able to do and what he wasn't, and that's why I'm like, I feel like if Ryan Coogler was his writing partner for this, maybe he would get more freedom because they trust Ryan Coogler, because they're pretty much giving Ryan Coogler like the go to set up a whole like series of like different Wakanda stories. So,
but maybe they'll consult him, right? Because we get the presence of Wakanda in the series, right? And Zemo is still, I mean, he's not killed or anything, so. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, that could happen. Might,
R.I.P. Desmond.
I know.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I was so mad. I was like, oh no. Oh, I'm like, oh well, maybe he's gonna be Neymar now.
You did see that he tweeted out a topless photo of himself in a Speedo.
Yes, and then
right after our podcast.
Everyone who knows that I said that was like, oh hey, look, there's your Neymar.
Was he blown up, or did he fall into the sea to be somehow regenerated?
No, I was going to say, I think he got blowed up.
Blowed up.
Well, yeah, but even that, is survivable in comics.
I mean, yeah, if you're a super soldier, especially, right?
I agree. It was very powerful when Sam became Captain America. I think then it got into some of the plotting weirdnesses that I think we've discussed are sort of a feature of this show. And, Al, we can go back and forth on this one. I didn't really buy that at the end. He just like speeches it out. Like, we're good. It's all a bunch of points worth making, but just like as a dramatic construction, it's like, let's get here and make this big speech. And like I think
the government will listen to you, right?
Right. And then I think Sean Taylor mentioned like, yeah, so let's give it this big speech while like, Sharon's like got a like bleeding stomach wound. Supposedly her partner in crime. After Sharon is just like shot Carly. I thought that was a little pat too. Like, is that how we end that?
It was a powerful show, and I agree. I actually really liked it. I know I've been reading a lot of the criticism of it on the internet, but generally I think the show did what it needed to do. I was quite pleased with the finale. I think, of course, some of the politics of it were messy, and I think the way the Flag Smashers ended up was kind of like just confused, right? And I did read that part of that might have been because they had to do a lot of cutting and rearranging, because apparently the original plot they had already shot, because remember, this was supposed to be the first Disney series predating even Wanda, and I think the reason that it ended up getting moved to becoming the second series is that they had to do a lot of like surgery to the story because they cut out an entire plot line, and that plot line was apparently about the Flag Smashers' original evil plot was to release a virus that was constructed in a lab in Madripoor, and then I think it was just cut too close to home. That hit
way too close to everybody's home.
I mean, not just the COVID stuff, but the fact that you go to like an Asian country and create it in a lab, and I think all of that had to be excised, and they had to come in. They couldn't reshoot anything, right? Like, it wasn't like the Snyder Cut where they give you $30 million to have Jared Leto say some bullshit on a green screen, but they had to ADR some stuff to make like the connections make sense. And I think it didn't work out ultimately, right? Because there's some stuff that just like the Flags, like Carly's motivation is just wild from like episode to episode. So that I think is one of the biggest criticisms I had. I also felt that John Walker's heel turn, face turn in like in the course of like 20 minutes
Exactly. When he's just suddenly like, I'm back, you know? I'm good, I'm back.
No, like John Walker was the villain of the series, right? Like the bloody shield should have been. That's it, right? Like
exactly.
He represents the like talking about the
Can't
politics of the show. He represents the state. He represents all that's wrong with America. All that's wrong with the forces of the state that's able to just engage in lethal violence, judge, jury, executioner, all that. And in a matter of even his ominous mid-credit sequence last episode was like the villain.
Which was a throwaway.
That was because embarrassing shield, by the way.
And then he comes in and he ultimately decides I'm going to be he gets a hero moment. And it just rubbed me the wrong way that they ultimately made him, him and Bucky working together, like just bantering with one another. And then he had the cringiest line in the whole damn series where he shows up and then John Walker says, "Are you saying Lamar's life doesn't matter?" And that was like the cringiest fucking thing. Because damn well in real life John Walker he's definitely an all lives matter dude.
Right.
Yes, and I feel like they're trying hard to make him not an all lives matter dude, but also like when you're just picking up from the source material of who his character is and pairing him with Madam Hydra, like it's so hard that they're trying to not push him in he's got
all the blue stripe and everything. He's got the blue stripe on the flag thing, the bumper sticker, all that shit. Like, come on, dude, you're U.S. agent. What?
He's got the Punisher sticker on his truck.
Oh my god, I got the Punisher mask. If I'm gonna have to wear a mask, I'm just gonna wear his Punisher COVID mask.
So yeah,
I thought that was cringy.
It was tough to kind of see him end up being the good guy because I thought he was a compelling villain. Like I said, I wish they actually made him more of a villain. But my complaint 2 weeks ago bear fruit because they were not planning on making him a villain at all. It was like he's going to be a good guy. Well, I think Britney, you mentioned he's ultimately working with Madam Hydra, but we'll see where that goes. But until then, like that whole sequence where he's like they're standing together. As much as I loved Sam as Captain America, it was hard for me to the heroic thing Sam does is side with John Walker and save a bunch of cops, and it was just that was a little rough, but I get it.
And his wife, I thought was such a throwaway character, wasn't she? Like a woman of color? Was she a black woman?
Yeah.
So and it's so strange. We're supposed to. His partner's black. My wife is black. Of course, I'm all for this. I'm about this life. But I'm U.S. agent. My best friend is black. I'm U.S. agent. So I don't know. His character is weird as fuck. I just wish he stayed the bad guy, got his ass beat, and was just there's no redemptive arc for you, especially that fast. Like if you're gonna be redeemed, at least let that shit marinate. He really just suddenly turned around and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this hero!" I mean, he beheaded this motherfucker earlier, but hero.
Yeah,
he got redeemed faster than Ben Solo, Britney.
I know.
Damn. Yeah,
How
really.
dare they? But I just feel like also in a way you could look at that as a commentary on a lot of people of color who really do try to appeal so much to white people and let those things fly and believe the whole oh well politics is just pizza toppings type of thing, you know what I mean,
the oversimplification.
There are people
yeah,
of color who do fall into that mentality that some white people have, mixed race or not. So I feel like her maybe it just supporting her husband regardless, that's probably what it is. That's the only logical explanation I can think of. The other explanation would just be lazy writing and didn't think about it and just and also just trying to do the whole let's appease white people thing. So that's one of those are the options. That's what happened.
I mean, I feel like I'm leaning more toward the lazy writing side because she's not fleshed out. She doesn't say or do anything. I think she has a few lines or her lines are at the end when she's with him there. I don't remember, but also the shield. Yeah, I was laughing just to myself when he was doing the mid-credits scene the previous episode, because I was like, dude, that's vibranium you had before. You are now using straight up sheet metal. Bullets you will be riddled in bullets, and that shield, like, I don't know how US Agent works in the comics or the sort of the capacities of his shield, but it was so funny to see him throw the shield at the beginning and then have it just fall and just be defeated, and that's it, and it never came back to him. He looked at it and just kept fighting, and that was it.
Speaking of heel turns, what did you guys think of the ultimate reveal that everyone guessed 3 episodes ago that Sharon Carter was the power broker?
I liked it because, you know what, they didn't really give her a personality before, and if she's gonna be evil and secretly doing stuff and ruining her great auntie's name, then you know what, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
I hate that. I hate that that's the result. I really hate that because she didn't have that fully realized and like it was well developed and, you know, dimensional personality as a character, it becomes this. I was like, wait, what? I don't know. I didn't dig it.
Unless
I felt that there
more than one power broker, you know, and she's one of the many power brokers.
I mean, she is on the phone with someone in the mid-credit sequence. Dominic, you're much more of a Marvel Comics historian than I am.
Yes,
does Sharon
please.
Carter do a heel turn in the comic? I feel like there may be something where she does some like bad stuff.
I don't know off the top of my
comics.
head, but she's been around for so long. I mean, it's certainly possible. Just like I think that Julia Louis-Dreyfus character has been like a SHIELD agent and a Hydrate. Although at this point, I think it's fair to say that everyone who's been a SHIELD agent in the comics and the movies has also been a Hydra agent.
Yes.
I mean, it's just covered that's like the alternate sides a lot, which is true. That's life.
Yeah.
I do kind of wonder like if Sharon's like one of Sharon's beefs is. I mean, I'm sure she has many beefs, but like it was like she had this like flirty, you know, friendly, kissy relationship with old school Captain America for so long, and then he went back in time to date her aunt, presumably until she died, and he became like old Joe Biden. She would be within her rights to feel weird about that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, she should have felt weird to begin with because, like, you know.
Yeah, and it was not quite addressed how much of it like, and you know, I'm not saying like, you know, is Captain America is like a, you know, the usual type of dog in circus. There's way too much time travel to assign any kind of like normal relationship behavior on it. But it is weird they made out once and then he went back in time to be with her aunt, who was her true love. You would be allowed to have deep feelings about that.
Well, speaking of bad guys, I think one of the reasons I was wondering about that is that one of the things they're definitely clearly setting up, I think through the course of the show, is the Thunderbolts and Baron Zemo leading the Thunderbolts because he's sitting there in the raft under Thunderbolt Ross's supervision, presumably, and you know,
doing some shady
but
stuff.
wait, hold up, Keith. This section, does that interweave or oppose a Secret Invasion storyline where some of them are also Skrulls?
Yeah, that's what some people had actually suggested, that maybe Sharon is actually a Skrull and that's not the actual Sharon we know. So
the only thing that complicates that, honestly, though, is that thus far in the MCU, Skrulls have not proven to be
bad.
evil.
I know, which is why I'm kind of like, how are they going to pull off the Secret Invasion?
Yeah, I have no idea how they're doing Secret Invasion.
Unless it's like a separate group of extremist Skrulls who were just like, no, we should infiltrate and take over. Like, what we've seen from Talos is like, that's not who they are. That's not.
Yeah, the whole point of Captain Marvel, I think that was the big swerve for Marvel fans, right? Like, if you were familiar with the comics, you just assumed, oh,
you guys, come on, you're doing it again. Skrulls are not a monolith. I
Exactly.
totally
Right? Yes,
get
you're right. You're
that.
right.
As far as I remember in Secret Invasion, maybe the Skrull culture was taken over by a hyper-religious sect, and they just became the most powerful, you know, faction for a while. But and with the Skrulls we met in Captain Marvel, where the Skrulls were kind of tired of all this war shit. They're not this one monolithic kind of alien.
No, that's exactly right.
You know.
Dominic has the last word there.
I just wanted to point out there because the Skrull story could be deep like that.
Two more things I want to touch on with Falcon Winter Soldier before we move on to the other Marvel thing, and that's the Isaiah Bradley scene at the Smithsonian. I know for some people there's been complaints that it was corny or that it was wrong of him to out his story. I didn't see it that way. I felt like I don't think he outs that Isaiah Bradley's still alive. I think to me what was powerful about that moment is to solidify his place in history.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that he says, oh, and by the way, he lives in Baltimore, right? Like, I think the point is that he wanted to get Isaiah's story told because, you know, he says in episode 5, they erased me.
Mm-hmm.
And now he enshrines it in, you know, a U.S. government institution. But I think that's the paradox of being a person of color who serves in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Black Captain America or being Black Captain America, it just
Right.
highlights the complication of that thing. And you can be that. You can be a person here, right? It's like that super old and antiquated argument of like, oh, if you don't like it here, you can just move. Like, no, I can live here and call myself an American and be hypercritical of the way this country has operated for centuries. And as Captain America, Sam feels that way, that he can be here and protect this space and this place and also be critical of this place and it's, how it's erased folks like Isaiah. And I agree too. It wasn't that he straight up was like, Isaiah's a super soldier and he's really upset. He's at home now with his, no, it's literally like you said, undoing that erasure, which happens. And, to this day, so many historical goings on that relate to war and black soldiers and black military units that have gone unnoticed because of that erasure. So it was a necessary move. And it was just that was another beautiful moment. And within Isaiah's reality, it just lines up with what he would have wanted to see, right? It's not like he would have wanted. He's older, so he wants like that. I would say he wants like that old send off, like this is how someone his age or from his background or from his time would want to have been commemored.
He wants his legacy recognized,
Yes.
for the significance of his life. I mean, I'm just saying it's something that older people want.
Well, and I
Right.
think what's
Tend to
powerful
watch.
about that moment as well is that, like, I'm sure that scene was written and acted and shot when the conversation was about like Confederate statues, right? Like there was this whole thing in 2020 about why even have statues, right? They exist to honor a legacy, and that we just happen to always immortalize racists and losers of wars. Like they don't hang banners when you lose the finals, guys. Like, I don't know why Confederates get all these statues. But I think that was also kind of like the point of that. Like, we're going to put a statue of Isaiah Bradley up in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think it goes back to the who lives, who dies, who tells your story.
Thank you for the Hamilton
Always
reference.
goes back to that.
Of course. Yeah, no, I think that's very much the concept of like, just that's what they're doing with Isaiah. Like, he was particularly moved out of history. And the same thing actually, like, happened to Hamilton, actually, like, that's literally, no one knew who he was. No one knew that, unless you were a hardcore historian, you didn't know who he was. Like, I didn't know that he founded the national bank system and all this stuff, like, and so that's the thing. Like, there was people actively trying to take him out of, particularly Jefferson really was trying to take him out of the story of the founding of America. And then you have Isaiah, who is really they really tried to erase him, that he existed, and so many other black people get removed from the thing. And that's the thing, that Hamilton might not have been 100% white. He might have been Creole. So just like this idea of removing, people of color from the storyline is like, I feel like, and replacing them, putting them back into history. I really do like that moment a lot.
I think that someone needs to do a fan edit and play the scene from the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but of course with the who lives, who dies, who tells your
It
story.
would go
Basically,
really
Philippa
well.
Sue is Captain America.
Yes.
I just wanted to add real quick, like, for all the complex, weird plot things that happen, and also, rewriting and reshooting stuff because of pandemic, and we get that. There's going to be some messy ones, movie production people. It's cool. Kudos for getting it out there. For all the story elements that this or that side might have found unsatisfying, I think they did succeed in presenting a couple sides of the story in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And it's not about who's right, but like I was saying earlier, like in a fictional narrative, what you get to do is present a paradox, and it's not, it can be two people who believe different things and they're both right. And that's the beauty of narrative drama. And so it's not necessarily whether, when Isaiah says no black guy should be Captain America and Sam goes to be Captain America anyway, that's not like someone's wrong. That's like two people in America with possibly contradictory points of view that are both their own story. Anyway, that was my long-winded way of saying I like paradox in fiction. That's what I'm all about.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think there's room for complexity. What I think the one thing that this does get right, it doesn't ask you to take either side. It doesn't say, the flag smashers are right. Isaiah Bradley's right.
It
Sam
definitely doesn't
Wilson's
say the
right.
Flag Smashers. Right. It could have taken a little more time to build up the Flag Smashers half of the argument, but I don't know if we want to go
Right?
there.
No, I think we've talked. Yeah, we talked about that with Desmond last week. Like, I think that it's a little half baked, and part of that, now learning that they had an entire storyline that was erased.
Sure.
Someone who lives, who dies, who tells their story. But the last thing I wanted to get to is Bucky was literally invited to the cookout.
Yes, he
What
was.
do we think about that?
Bucky wasn't by the cookout. Oh, you're right.
I mean, yeah, I would invite him to the cookout. So, I
Yeah, you
really
would.
liked
Why does it sound dirty when you say it, Brittany?
I wasn't trying to. I really enjoyed that scene, and I liked seeing him with the kids, and especially when they're all like trying to like pull down his arm, and he had his like arm
He's
out.
like a
Did you
tree.
see Sarah's face?
Yes, I ship it. But yeah, no, I really loved that whole entire like moment, and like I thought it was funny though that he brought a store-bought cake, so I hope he learns to bake next time and will bring like an actual like decent like carrot cake or something. But I really enjoyed that whole like scene. It was very
That's all they ever had in Hydra was store-bought cake. That's what they feed Hydra agents.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, ultimately it worked out. We're going to get hopefully more of their interactions in Captain America 4, starring Anthony Mackie. That's all we know so far. Like, we don't know anything else about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually even haven't officially announced Anthony Mackie starring in it, but I mean, it would be kind of weird if it wasn't starring Anthony Mackie at this point. But yeah, that's now officially Captain America and the Winter Soldier. The other Marvel thing that happened this week, Dominic, I'm sure you've been rearing to talk about this for years.
What, where, when, who, how?
There was a Shang-Chi trailer that dropped this week.
Yeah.
Are we stoked for? I'll be honest. I wasn't actually that excited for a Shang-Chi movie. I know, it's blasphemy. I'm a bad Asian. I've said this multiple times on this podcast. However, seeing Tony Leung in action, I'm all in. In fact, I'm starting the hashtag when Wu was right, because I don't care what he says. That dude's now my favorite character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right.
Already.
Bold words.
Because he's Tony fucking Leung. He's the god Tony Leung.
I remember at Comic-Con you were so geeked out, like genuinely like bouncing around that Tony Leung was cast when they announced that.
Oh, yeah. He's like my favorite actor. I love that man. And to see him in a Marvel... It's just wow. I actually tweeted this out. I Instagrammed this out the other day. I was at the store. And I guess they broke the embargo. This Walmart near my house had Shang-Chi toys on the shelves already. And it was just like, to see Tony Leung, a little plastic Tony Leung, on a shelf in Walmart.
Have we won?
We've won. Like,
good. Now we can rest.
But I might get several and like customize it so I put his head on like a suit body, so I have like a Chow Mo One, from In the Mood for Love action figure customized for my shelf. That's what I'm looking forward to. No, what did you think of the Shang-Chi trailer?
No, I mean, I think I'm with you as the general feeling about anticipating Shang-Chi, Keith. And I think I get the sense that Britney is more like being a good fan and is like earnestly excited for the Shang-Chi movie. So I want to hear about that perspective. Me, it's like, yeah, it's great to see a trailer. It's a special case, though. It's a special case because he's a martial artist, and let's remember... Well, let's not start there. He's the most obvious choice to be first Asian American top-lining Marvel heroes because legacy has been around the longest. But let's remember, he's not the most wildly original character ever. So that's where his genesis is to be a Bruce Lee clone. And, he doesn't really have a costume or a mask. His mask is kind of like he's Chinese, and that's unusual. Like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, he doesn't have a code name. Like, his name is his name. So these are unique things. And then, of course, let's get the fact that it's a martial arts movie, and we have a bunch of those. That's not saying we don't need more, but it's that kind of, contradictory feelings, as a Chinese American, like, Marvel nerd, that go into when we're anticipating the Shang-Chi movie. And all that said, it looks totally fun.
It looks like a Marvel movie, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, it's got like, San Francisco, a lot of buses in it, and like stuff that Smart. And maybe there's and I guess like it's encouraging that it looks like he'll get to mess with the Mandarin rings in a way to give him some like extra superpowered flair. Not because like everyone needs a superpower, but yes, because there are a lot of martial arts movies out there already. And that is not groundbreaking in Asian American cinema. Let's say that.
What, martial arts? I think it is in Asian American cinema, at least. Like,
oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah,
because that's the thing, right? Like,
thank you for keeping me honest there. On Asian American cinema, there's more ground to be done.
Right. I think, like, I'm with you. Like, it's not that it's the martial arts thing is not what kind of I bump up against with Shang-Chi. I think to your point, it's like he hasn't been the most exciting character to me. As he's not something like. I think it's different. Like, it's not like Black Panther. Like, Black Panther was a significant character in the comics already before they even imagined a movie starring Black Panther, right? But they were very significant Marvel characters. They weren't Spider-Man and X-Men or even Fantastic Four, but like general Marvel zombies understand Captain America is the Superman of the Marvel universe. Like, he's the moral...
It's Captain Marvel.
Or Thor or Captain Marvel, but we have
But you know what I'm saying? But like
we have fun debates about that. We understand what
symbolically,
the debate is.
Captain America is the standard bearer of the Marvel universe, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for a mainstream audience, when Marvel Studios was established, they had to have these characters that people forget before 2008 were not household names.
Yeah,
Iron Man was not a household name. Thor was not a household name. Cap was not a household name. But they were significant characters within like Marvel fandom.
Yes.
Shang-Chi is more in the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of like realm in terms of like status. Like, let's be real. Shang-Chi was not the he's Master of Kung Fu was not the most renowned title.
Yeah.
It sold very well because it was going on the Bruce Lee craze. It was one of those tactical.
But no one looks
things.
back at those comics fondly.
But the only because there's so much horrible like Orientalists or Asian stereotypes.
There's definitely a lot of Orientalists, right? I mean, he's Fu Manchu's son, for God's sake.
Yes, and I think the only reason why Iron Fist ended up being more popular was because he was a white dude doing it, and it felt like it was subverting the genre of martial arts, and I feel like that's why Iron Fist ended up being the Danny Rand. Being the
and then Iron Fist
character.
had like a dope costume.
Yeah,
to
and then,
Dominic's point, like the mask that Iron Fist wears is cool.
It's dope. Yes,
Shang-Chi didn't wear shoes. Like, that was the difference. Like, that was my thing always about, like, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was kind of like not a great character.
Yeah.
All that said, I feel like the work that Daniel Cretton and Dave Callahan are probably doing with the movie is to correct all of that, right? Because, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, as we always say, was, like, some bullshit until they made a movie out of it, and now fucking 5-year-olds wear Groot costumes for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just that easy. You can do it, guys.
Yeah.
You can find previously unexplored potential.
I mean, and to like the point I made earlier, like now we see like Simu Liu in plastic form on a toy shelf. Like, kids are going to play with Shang-Chi action figures.
Yes.
Like, there's going to be a Halloween that might be, now that I say that, hashtag not your costume.
Well, they gave him, they kind of gave him a more, like, at least in the poster, they try to actually give him a costume.
Like a superhero costume. Yeah.
But, I get, like, the whole, like, not your costume, because especially with Moana, there was a lot of weird costume stuff with her. But I don't know, it's so hard, because it's like, I feel like little kids who aren't normally represented in this genre should get to see themselves and have the option to have their costume. But I don't know, I'm very excited because I like really like enjoyed reading him when especially when he interacts with Misty Knight. I love their interactions, even though they're like, I don't know, I'm very excited, and I guess for part of me is also hoping that means like I'll see Misty Knight in the MCU finally, like officially, and not just the backdoor side where they like to act like it doesn't exist. But also I really do like the character from like what I've read of him in the comics, and
I think they've gone a long way in recent comics.
Yeah, we shouldn't melt it all together. Like, Shang-Chi's a cool character recently. I think just from his inception, they're working with. Like,
his inception was very like, it was obvious that they were just trying to make Bruce Lee as a comic book character.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Pak did a lot of work with him, kind of when he was doing like the. Like taking all the Asian American characters in the Marvel universe and putting them at like mahjong or dim sum, And Jane Yang is currently writing Shang-Chi now in Marvel Comics. So I think, yes, they've gone... I actually kind of like the, Shang-Chi as like super spy storylines more than like just like straight up mystical martial artist.
I kind of hope that they will lead into that with him and Agent Wu and like teaming up. That's
fighting over the bill at Korean barbecue. That's they need to lift that directly from a Greg Pak story. What do we think of Wen Wu? Like, how do you think they're going to handle the Mandarin in the MCU now that we actually have a Mandarin?
I hope they actually take him seriously and not make him a joke.
Well,
I get why they made him
Tony
a joke.
fucking Leung.
I know.
You better take him seriously.
Yeah, no, when my dad saw him in the trailer too, he was like, oh, this movie's gonna be something, and I was like, yeah. I don't know, I'm really excited. I hope they do well with it. I don't know, I guess I'm just too optimistic about where this could go. Just because I've also liked Daniel's other films, like I really
Just Mercy.
Yeah, and Short Term 12, like that movie was such a good movie. He loves family trauma, so I feel like this is gonna be great.
Optimism is what we need, man. We're doing.
I said this when they hired Destin Cretton, that his muse, all his films, is Brie Larson. Can we get a Captain Marvel appearance in Shang-Chi?
I mean, they might, because like
they haven't.
She's worked in all his films.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He's never done a movie without her, so like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's totally got to be the cameo.
We have to, yeah. It would just for like the Destin Cretton heads out there, like you need Brie Larson in your movie.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm excited for Tony. I'm just excited for Tony Leung. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. Like,
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm rooting for the Mandarin.
Big rings, man. I want to see some of the Mandarin ring action. That's the nerd side of me. What do you think Tony Leung thought when like about
cast him?
Well, yeah, about like here are these 10 rings and they have big comics lore and you're supposed to like create ice sculptures with one of them and one of them shoots lightning bolts or like I don't know. I just wonder how to the point of people getting sucked into the Marvel universe, how he would feel like as an international star in the but particularly in the Chinese market.
I want to dig into that real quick. What you just said about the Chinese market. I don't think they're positioning this to be a hit in China.
No.
Like that was one of the things that like some of the chatter after the trailer came out is that like, well, it's because Marvel is uniquely successful in China.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Chinese people don't like Asian American anything, right?
Yeah.
But that's always been like the dirty little secret is that like putting Asian Americans in your film is not a pander to the Chinese audiences.
No,
but people assume it is
yeah.
Because all look same or whatever.
Yeah, the dirty little secret is no one knows what the Chinese market is still. They just really, really want it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because Star Wars is not a big deal in China. But the MCU is, right? Like, we were talking about, like, the nationalism and jingoism around characters like Captain America. They fucking love Captain America in China. You know what I mean? Like, because they love Marvel.
Yeah.
Whether or not they jive with Shang-Chi, I don't think it matters.
Yeah,
ultimately.
I think the sell is here.
Yeah.
That's
For
what
sure.
it is. And
There's definitely
other
more work to
countries
do here.
too. And I think that's a more important thing. And I mean, I know I'm not Asian, so I can't speak for Asian people, but like I just feel like
go for it. We give you permission.
Okay, then. Just for this once. I just feel like the sell is for Asian American people here. And like Crazy Rich Asians wasn't that big of a hit down in China, but here it was. In other countries it was too, and it opened up sadly open up people's eyes to see like, yeah, Asian people are talented and they deserve to be on the screen just as much as like anybody else does. And you guys are still the lowest represented in Hollywood in terms of like the roles, and as well as you can say the Latinx community too. Like, and then people like to also forget about anyone who intercepts any identities and stuff like that. And I think this is a big deal for, because most of the time we see mainly white people and then sometimes black people represented, and then everyone else kind of gets like, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to representation. So for Marvel to do this, it is a big thing. It is a big deal. And also the fact that they're doing the Miss Marvel show, and like, it's just, I don't know, I'm excited. And then Oscar Isaac is going to be Moon Knight. Like, I don't know, there's just so many cool things that they're going to do that I feel like it's more for at least people in America more than versus other countries. And it's sad, but it's true, because like if they really needed the Chinese box office for Shang-Chi, it wouldn't work. It would fail. It would bomb. Like the movie wouldn't make what they needed it to.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that. I mean, totally, we can't say it enough because this is where people always get messed up. This casting an Asian American person in a big Hollywood movie is nothing to do necessarily with how it's going to play in China.
Right.
That is not part of the formula. And yes, everyone wants to undo the riddle of how to play big in the Chinese movie markets, but you're doing good on that, and then you just get they have their martial arts movies. In fact, China has a bunch of Mulan movies, so those
Right.
conversations were also just they're two separate buckets you got to talk about.
And by that same token, the reason Asia market in general doesn't give a shit about whitewashing is like what you just said. They have representation. Right?
Yeah.
For them to see Scarlett Johansson as the major is like fucking cool.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wow, big Hollywood star wants to be in a Japanese thing. Whereas, like, here, it's a problem because there isn't representation of Asian faces as Asian characters. So, like,
Yeah.
we feel a certain type of way about whitewashing that people in China, people in Japan don't. Because, again, Japanese and Japanese American, Chinese and Chinese American, different things. Speaking of Asian Americans in big multi-billion-dollar blockbusters, the number one movie in America is Mortal Kombat.
Kombat.
Now,
Yeah.
I actually had fun watching it. I know that 90% of the internet is having a conniption because the movie is trash.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I'm sorry.
It's fun. What do you want from a Mortal Kombat
That's what
movie?
I'm saying. Because I went back, I don't know, it was a few years ago. I finally rewatched the 90s ones because I used to love that movie. I worshipped that movie, and I went back and watched it. I'm like, wow, my taste as a child was terrible. But I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was fun, I mean, yeah, sure, it wasn't perfect. My only issue with the movie was that you could really tell that they were just trying to set up the world for other movies, that I felt like they weren't focusing on this particular story that they were trying to tell. That was my only big thing, but it's supposed to be a stupid action movie that's just people kicking butt and blood and gore and people being cut in half and oh, that was so cool. Oh my gosh, sorry. I was so excited.
That was the best fatality.
I was like, and I'm like, they didn't say fatality in the movie. I was doing the sound effects, and my dad was like, Britney, be quiet. I'm like, fatality.
Finish him.
Yeah.
The only thing I guess that I was like, oh, that's interesting. The Scorpion has no reason to say get over here. Because clearly, in the reality of the movie, Hanzo can't speak English. so
It's something he learned in hell.
I guess so.
That was his big thing that he learned in hell.
Other than that was the only thing I was like, because, at least that was spoiled in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But, after watching the movie and realizing, Sonata doesn't speak any English because he died 5,000 years ago.
Yeah. I'm still trying to
Why does he say get over here?
I'm still trying to figure out exactly how Lewis's character Cole is not 5,000 years old, because technically
Well, I think
It wasn't 5,000 years ago.
Well,
Was
yeah,
it supposed to
500.
be?
I'm sorry. I was exaggerating.
Okay.
No, but I think
There
Cole
it
is
I think there's some mention of great grandpa.
great, exactly. Raiden saves Hanzo's daughter, and then she eventually has kids, and then they have kids, and until one day, Louis Tan's born.
I thought that
yeah.
the baby that was taken is Cole.
Oh no, the baby was a girl because
I
in the
didn't pick
beginning
that
he
up.
tells the little boy, "Go take care of your sister."
I don't even remember him saying go
Yeah,
take
yeah,
care
well,
of your
it's fine.
sister.
It doesn't. Ultimately, it doesn't.
So
really
I was
matter.
very confused. I was like, wait a minute, how is Louis Tan not old? I'm like, so that was the one thing that I was very confused about. I wonder if other people are confused about that too.
I think they just skipped a whole bunch of years, just 'cause
Oh,
they
yeah,
couldn't
I
be
was
bothered.
very-
No, I think most people just hated the fact that he wasn't Johnny Cage.
I thought Louis
That's
Tan
the
was very
thing that I
effective,
keep
but he
seeing.
did kind of turn into Johnny Cage, or he's going to audition for Johnny Cage's movie. Spoiler, whatever. I'm sorry.
No, I think he's going to go find Johnny Cage.
Yeah, I
think
thought he's looking for him.
Yeah, they're going to get Johnny Cage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Search for Cage.
wow,
Yeah.
Props to Ludi Lin. I love that kid. He's so good. I really loved him.
Yeah, he was better than I thought he'd be. Like, he was actually a pretty good Liu Kang.
I liked him in Power Rangers.
Never saw Power Rangers.
I did. I love that movie. And my brother was like, "Where do you know him from?" I'm like, he's from the Power Ranger movie.
And he didn't impress me when he was an
Power
Aquaman.
Ranger. Then my brother's like, "What do you mean he's the Black Power Ranger?" I'm like, "In the black suit." Remember, they switched it around. So they made sure that people weren't in suits of colors, that they were just like wrong.
Really? Wow.
So Ludi Lin is
complicated,
quote unquote, the Black Power Ranger, but the actual Black Power Ranger is the Blue Power Ranger.
So Mortal Kombat, yeah, but like people are like hurt by this movie, and I was just surprised that like there was just so much.
I don't know what they expected.
Dominic, what did you were you not?
This
is the only video. This is as far as I get with like video game talk on the podcast. I'm sorry, Dominic.
That's all right. No, I mean I'm no expert on Mortal Kombat because I find those fighting games punishingly hard with all their like little button sequences. And then like I was trying to model in my mind who is the person who is really looking forward to this movie, and I couldn't exactly. And then I remember seeing that old one, and I thought maybe like this was one of those reboots that was more or less the same thing as the last time they tried to do it.
In terms of like quality,
I don't know. Is that true? I mean, Britney just said you went back and watched it.
I went back.
I don't know if they made any great advancements, is what I'm saying.
I mean, maybe like some things look better, and Louis Tan is in it, but
Louis Tan was very effective, I thought.
The biggest difference is the Asian people get to play Asian characters finally. Like if you go back to the original, I mean, other than Shang Tsung and Liu Kang, which would have been really difficult to like. Not, I guess it wouldn't be difficult, but like, everyone else, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, were all played by white dudes, and so like. I think I did this in a Nerd Poppin' a couple months ago. I was just excited that we got a movie that starred Louis Tan, Ludi Lin, Hiroyuki Sanada, Tadanobu Asano.
Yeah, love that guy.
Joe Taslim is dope as hell as Sub-Zero in this movie.
Yeah.
So I'm just so stoked that we live in a world where like the 4 coolest ninjas in pop culture are played by Asian American or Asian
and actually play,
right? Scorpion is Hiroyuki Sanada, Sub-Zero is Joe Taslim, Storm Shadow is Andrew Koji, and Snake Eyes is fucking Henry Gold.
Yeah, and they made...
this is the best world
it all gets back to Snake
in.
Eyes. Yeah, and they made the point of distinguishing Chinese and Japanese language in the opening, which I appreciated.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
cool.
For those of you who think there's sort of like an East Asian bias in our Asian discourse, yes, there is. This one was all about the Chinese-Japanese, gauntlet. But at least it wasn't monolithically stuck together as Pan-Asian. So I like little shit like that.
And my favorite part of that opening was great. Like I just loved that was probably the best part of the film, and which to me makes it better than the 90s films. That like that there was actual pathos with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, right? Like the first 7 minutes feels like Twilight Samurai. It doesn't feel like a dumb video game movie. But I love my favorite part of that is when Joe Taslim's speaking in Chinese and Sonata says like, "I don't know what you're saying."
Yeah, I like that. He's like, "I don't know.
Awesome.
I don't know what you're saying." I loved it. I don't know. It was good, and I don't know.
Yeah, I just did. I like the hysteria around the people who hate this movie. I just don't understand. Like, what did you want?
I don't know what. Yeah, that's my thing. I feel
movie?
like there's some people, like especially certain people on film Twitter, just they overtake themselves too seriously, and I'm just like.
But I don't even think it's film Twitter that's like mad about it. Like they just think it's a dumb movie. Fine, but like, video game nerds and like Mortal Kombat nerds hate this movie because again. Louis Tan's character isn't, he's like created just for the movie.
Yeah, I'm like
Johnny Cage is. There's no tournament. Like, fine.
Yeah,
like, who cares? There's no tournament. They're still fighting and killing each other.
They're literally
like,
setting up. That's why I said. That's why I feel like the issue with this film was that they were setting up for other stories. That's what I feel like the issue was. But I don't know. I feel like some people need to accept some movies are just meant to be fun. And for you to like be like, oh, that's badass. Like some movies are just meant to be that. Not everything has to like, have an also like a story behind it. Like I mean, not story, but like more intellectual thought behind it is what I mean. Like I feel like some people need to accept some movies are just meant to be purely entertainment. Yes, you can still critique those movies, but I feel like that's what also people need to realize. Some of these movies are just meant to be entertainment, and that is all. And some of them, yes, are meant to tell more profound stories, and then there's some that are in between. Like, it's okay to have these different movies, and it's fine however you feel about them, but just realize that not every movie needs to be Shakespearean quality.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And by entertainment, we mean razor buzzsaw hat through the head of that poor winged lady.
That was I was like, oh, that was great. That was great. Gosh, I loved it.
Yeah, I had fun. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it was
and
fun.
Again, it was a trash movie, but it was a fun trash movie.
That's what I mean. It was a fun
all you need
trash
from a Mortal
movie.
Kombat.
That's what I expect from a Mortal Kombat movie. It's to be fun, but fun trash that you enjoy.
The other thing that it illuminated for me is how wasted Mehcad Brooks was on Supergirl.
Yes.
Like, that dude should be an action star. Like, he,
Yes, and casting
Was he
Jimmy
Jax?
Olsen.
Jax, right. He played Jimmy Olsen on Supergirl.
Oh.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was just so much with his character that I feel like, messed up because of a certain fandom was not happy about Jimmy Olsen being black, and then also kind of having feelings for Kara.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, my only issue with Mehcad Brooks as Jimmy Olsen is I thought he was too jacked to be Jimmy Olsen. Like, in my ideal Arrowverse world, I would have swapped him with Curtis, right? Because, like, Mr. Terrific in the comics is a big dude. He's, like, buff, but he's smart.
Yeah, and I get trying to subvert, like, the type.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I got what they were trying to do, but, like, Echo Kellum played Curtis as, like, Jimmy Olsen. You know what I mean? He wore bow ties. He was nerdy.
I get that. Yeah. No, my only issue more of was like the people who kind of try to push him out of the show because just the fact that he was a black man in the role and that they didn't
romantic lead,
and as a romantic lead, and they hated it. And that's what frustrated me was like.
Oh, for sure. Like, he got done dirty.
He got done dirty because of that, and I really hate how much a certain subset of fans really get to push those things through, and they kind of get their way, and it's so frustrating. It bothers me deeply, but I don't know. Give me Sam and Bucky. Sarah and Bucky. Sam and Bucky. Both of them. I'm fine with either or.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know.
Some combination thereof.
Yeah. Well, with that, what's nerd popping for? We're gonna let Jamal go first since he had to drop off early.
So what's nerd popping for me is we finally have our Twitch channel, so you can find us at twitch.tv/the nerds of color. I'm super hyped because we'll be going live soon, so be sure you're following our Twitter to be on the lookout for that.
Brittany, what's nerd popping?
I don't know if you saw my Twitter and Instagram, but I actually went comic book shopping yesterday. And
nice.
I bought some comic books, and I got old school Spider-Woman comics that are like from the 70s. Like,
of course you did.
Yeah. There's one that is like, I'm trying to find it as I'm looking.
She has a Japanese-American boyfriend at some point in old school. I
yes,
seem
she
to
does.
remember.
There's one comic issue that I think I showed on my Instagram story. It's the Wolfman is on there. Like,
oh wow,
yeah.
What do you mean on the cover?
Yeah.
You mean Marvel's Wolfman?
Or Wolf or whatever.
Or Marv Wolfman.
I'm sorry, or it could be Marv Wolfman.
But it looks like a Wolfman.
Not to be confused with J. Jonas Jameson's son, who was Man Wolf.
Maybe, but he looks more like a Wolfman to me. But I'm just like, this is cool. Like, I'm so excited to get into these. And I also got some of the High Republic comics too.
Oh, nice.
So
I know you've been following that story.
Yeah, I feel like I'm much more of a nerd than people actually realize. I feel like I don't come off as a nerd to people who don't really know me, and then they're like, "Oh, she's a nerd."
Well, you're on the right podcast, Brittany.
Yes.
Yeah, nerd cred is unquestioned here.
Dominic, what is nerd popping?
Oh, like they were playing Into the Badlands on AMC this week, and I just, remembered what a great freaking show that is, and just like to, speak to the idea that we can have martial arts fantasies starring Asian American people, starring a diverse cast that also attempt a pretty big story. And I don't know, in an alternate world, that show is still going on.
I know. I wish at least got one more season.
Well, if you look at this week, right, like I mentioned, it started off with a Shang-Chi trailer. There was actually a brand new episode of Kung Fu in the middle there on CW, and it ended with Mortal Kombat featuring a mostly Asian cast.
Yeah.
Into the Badlands was actually ahead of its time, if you think about it, right? Like,
yeah.
It's way ahead of those three shows.
Yeah, if that had come out now, like with Warrior, with Kung Fu, with Shang-Chi, like, I think it would probably be more part of the zeitgeist than it was when it came out
I feel
4 years ago.
I feel like it's going to end up, especially because people who maybe actually really enjoy Lewis in Mortal Kombat, they're going to find out that he was on the last season of Into the Badlands.
Right.
And so I feel like people are going to check that out.
They're going to rediscover it.
And they're going to rediscover it, and then who knows, they may bring it. Because I feel like if they just got one more season, I would be fine with it. Yeah, I don't know. I really
mean,
like
that-
it. And talk about someone who would be a good Black Widow. Like, the actual Widow on the show, she would have been...
She was so the Black Widow. That was one of the cool things about the
she
show. She had red hair and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the thing that's just got me twisted. Like, it's not that Shang-Chi is coming out. It's in this particular window, it's like Kung Fu and Shang-Chi and Mortal Kombat and Warrior all at once. It's like, that's fine. They're all martial arts shows.
Yeah,
I'm gonna run to the guys at the bar.
Don't forget Snake Eyes. We're also getting
Snake Eyes is gonna be the best one in that in that grouping that I made, and it's like, oh, I just gotta run into the, like, you know, MAGA dudes on the street to expect me to Bruce Lee them or some like shit like that again.
Well, that would be nice, actually, if we could just Bruce Lee the MAGA guys. To be honest, I mean, I feel like they need some of the people who are out there beating up Asian people need to have their asses kicked, like the grandma who kicked ass when she got beat.
Certainly, good real world use of martial force.
Speaking of Asians and pop culture, my nerd popping this week is actually a new show on Netflix that just dropped called Shadow and Bone, which is based on a young adult fantasy series of the same name by Leah Bardugo, I think is her name. And what's cool is that in the books, the characters are, I think their ethnicity is not even brought up, which defaults to them being white. But in the show, they cast a mixed race Asian actress named, I think her name is Jessie May Lee. And because they cast a mixed race Asian actress, they've actually made the character mixed race, not Asian, because there is no Asian in this fantasy world, but there's a realm that's basically the analog to Asia called Shu Han, and she's half Shu. Through the course of the series, they actually reference the fact that she's mixed race. And, you know, and so some people, like, I think like I said, I don't know the books, but I think in the book she's supposed to feel like alienated and stuff. But in the show, she's alienated because of her race, basically. People kind of like hurl slurs at her and she, you know, treat her and other her and stuff like that. And to me, I think that's really effective. But apparently folks online don't like the fact that, and these aren't the typical people who don't like the fact that they race bent the character. It's like other Asians, like on Asian Twitter, complaining that like they're tuning into the show and hearing slurs. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, I didn't want to see like racial slurs in my fantasy. And it just, to me, rings a little too close to like there's too much politics in pop culture. But it's like they're coming from the other side, you know what I mean? It just rubs me the wrong way because it's like, you know, most of the time when they make characters Asian or people of color, the complaint is there's nothing cultural specific about them. Like, right? Like that's one of the knocks against the West on The Flash is that Iris never gets to be black. Yeah. An example here is the show Invincible that I talked about a couple weeks ago. In the books, the Graysons are not defined by race. So in the show, they cast Stephen Yeun and Sandra Oh to play mother and son. And like, I'm not going to say the exact same folks, but like definitely Asian Twitter, I've seen people say like it's bullshit because it's a meaningless race swap because there's nothing culturally Asian about the Graysons. And, you know, like I remember like there's a scene where like the mom brings like chips and soda to Mark and his girlfriend. And like they went ballistic because it's like, why doesn't she cut up fruit for him? If she was Asian, she'd cut up fruit. And it's like, we're either a monolith or we're not a monolith, right? Like either there's one way to be Asian or there isn't. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to address someone's Asianness and get called out for it, and if you don't address someone's Asianness and you get called out for it, it's like...
Yeah, but I do want to add, when it comes to writing characters, I feel like we have to be realistic with people. And I don't know if I said it on here before, but I've said it somewhere. It's like, people are still problematic in real life. So that means your characters are going to reflect that. And they are going to have problematic elements and do and say problematic things. So if you have other characters on screen saying what you believe is a racial slur, it's like, that's real because there are people who throw racial slurs at us. And I understand you don't want to be triggered watching fantasy shows, but like you said, it goes back to the argument of people saying, I don't want politics and wokeness in my storytelling, when it's like, but some of that reflects real life and some of it isn't even really going that deep into it. But here, my stance is like, Nala, please stop. Sorry, my cat's meowing. Like, you just, you know, I feel like we have to be realistic. There are problematic people in the world and some are more problematic than others. And
she's co-signing on all of this.
Oh, she's ready to go. She said
she's hurling slurs at you right now.
Yeah, she said it's time to go downstairs.
I think I think everyone should actually tune in. Shadow and Bone, what I've seen so far, I'm not a binger. I cannot watch like 6 episodes in a row in one weekend. But so far so good. Check it out, Shadow and Bone, and check out Invincible. Invincible is dope too, if you don't mind like really bloody cartoons. With that, we'll end it for this week. Before we wrap up, Jamal is going to tell us how people can find him on the internet.
You can find me on Twitter at XPROSPERE.
Dominic, how can you be found on the internet?
Oh, I'm at Doma, DOMMAH, and Twitter and Instagram.
Britney?
You can find me on Twitter and other social media stuff at Hi Britney Monet. And you can also check out my other podcast, which is the Black Lightning Podcast. And you can follow us on Twitter at BL_podcast. And that's pretty much all I've got going on right now.
You can find me on Twitter at @TheRealChow, _real_chow, and follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color. Go to hardknockmedia.com to find this and all of the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Give us a like and a review on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher. Subscribe to us at youtube.com/the Nerds of Color. Buy merchandise at TeePublic. Support us on Patreon or GoFundMe. And until next time.
The Oscar Isaac goes too.
Moon Knight.
Yes. And not Moonlight.
Not Moonlight, right.
That'd be fun.
I should have said La La Land.
Yes. Moon Knight versus, yeah, whatever.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.